In this video, we're going to learn about rounding on your calculator using the TI-84 Plus CE. These examples are directly from the upcoming chapter, and you're going to learn how to set up these expressions for you to calculate. But here we're going to learn how to put them in your calculator and then how to round and how to check your rounding. So let's look at the first one. So again, we looked at some of these in objective or chapter 0. So the best plan is to try to set it up using your calculator's function so it looks exactly like the expression you see. Otherwise, you could need more parentheses than you know, and it's really easy to make a mistake. So the first thing we need here is a fraction. And remember, if we go to Math, move over to Fraction, so I'm going to use the left arrow, and n over d will give me two spots, a numerator and a denominator. So I'm going to hit enter. So now we have a fraction ready. In the numerator, we're putting 10,000. Okay. Notice all the keys are showing up here if you need to reference them later. Now I'm going to go down to the denominator using the down key, and we need parentheses, 1 plus. Now we need another fraction, so I'm going to go to Math, this fraction, n over d, and 0.048 over 12. Move to the right to close the parentheses. And now we need an exponent with 12 times 5. So this caret key gives this little box as an exponent, and we'll multiply 12 times 5. Now in general, I like to use the right key to move all the way out to make sure the expression is set up correctly. And if you compare it to here, we have 10,000, we have the sum of 1 in this fraction is in the parentheses, and only that, and it's all raised to this exponent. Okay, so now you don't want to do any computations and round midway. You want to get the whole expression in there, or else in this chapter, in general, you'll definitely have round off error. So let's hit enter. And this is our result. Now it says to round to the nearest cent, so these are finance problems, so in a lot of cases the answers will be dollars. Sometimes they'll be percents, but this is cent, so that means 2 decimal places. This is the penny spot, okay? But if we look to the right, 5 is 5 or greater, and that means we'd round up to 78.7005. Now I'm going to show you something that will help you check your results, okay, for rounding. So if you click on mode, okay, the third one down says float. So that means it has a floating decimal. It's going to give you as many decimals as it can, basically. Now I am going to change this to 2. Okay, so I want 2 decimal places. So this means 2 numbers to the right of the decimal place, not 2 digits. And I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to leave this area by hitting second, and then it says quit right here. Okay. And now I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to repeat the previous expression, and notice here it's rounded for me and it's rounded correctly. Okay. Now a warning, okay, this may seem great. You may think I'll just keep this on 2 decimal places forever, but in a lot of cases you might need to round to 3 or 4, and this is better as a check of your rounding than keeping it on 2 decimal places forever. Okay, you can actually make errors because maybe if you needed 3 decimal places, it would be 045, and you might think it terminates or ends here when it doesn't. Okay, so when you're done using this to check, especially on a test or if you're working on a problem and you just can't seem to get it right and you want to check your rounding, okay, once you're done, go back to second mode. Oops. Oh, not second mode. Sorry. Just go back to mode. Okay, and we're going to arrow down to float, hit enter. So float is highlighted, and now it's in its regular form. So our result was $7,870.05, rounded to the nearest cent. So let's look at the next one. Let's scroll down a little bit. And that was the expression in Chapter 5, Objective 6 worked example. So if you want to check how to punch that into your calculator. Now this one is from Objective 6 media example, Part A. Okay, we show you how to set this up, and now we want to compute it on the calculator. So we start with the 7,000. Now we need parentheses, 1 plus, now I need to put in a fraction, so I go to Math, arrow over to fraction. I need n over d, so I'm going to hit enter. In the numerator we have 0.034, and in the denominator we have 12. Move to the right, close the parentheses, and now we need an exponent of 12 times 8. So we'll use the caret button and multiply 12 times 8. And here's our result. So it says to round to 2 decimal places, so that's 9,184, and this would round up to 0.58 or 0.58. Let's double check that by using the mode. I will go down to float, change it to 2. Okay. Then I'm going to hit second quit. Okay. And actually I'm going to use second entry here to get the previous answer. Remember last time it multiplied by something again. So that's another useful thing to do. If you need the previous expression, if you hit second and the enter button, it's that blue entry. Now I'll hit enter again, and notice this time it rounded it to 2 decimal places for me. So let's enter our answer, and I've entered it right here. Now for the next one, we are told, this is Chapter 5, Objective 8 worked example. And here we're actually finding a percentage. Okay, this answer isn't a dollar amount. And it says compute, change your answer from a decimal to a percent, then round to 2 decimal places. So this is very important. Lots of times students will get, say we had a percent that was 0.1256, and that's what it was as a decimal. Okay. Students sometimes round to 0.13 first, and then they say it's 13%. But what we'd actually want to do is multiply this by 100, change it to a percent, and then the percent rounded to 2 decimal places is 12.56%. So these decimal places will make a big difference. Now remember, we were still on round to 2 decimal places mode, and I'm going to keep it there because I want to show you something. So let's clear this out first. Oh, that's not a clear button. There we go. Okay, so this expression, you'll see when we learn about this, this is actually, I know this is going to be greater than 5%. Okay, so it's an operation which you'll see called the annual percentage rate, and it will always be greater than or equal to this number. So I'm going to enter the parentheses, 1 plus, let's get a fraction, 0.05 over 365, close the parentheses, raise it to the 365 power. Now make sure we need to get out of the exponent, so I need to move to the right till the cursor goes down, and we'll do -1. Okay. Now this is the decimal expression of the percent, and right now this is rounded to 2 decimal places. This is not our correct answer. Okay, we're going to need to multiply this by 100 to change it to a percent, and then round to 2 decimal places. So let's go back to mode, and let's put this back on float. So this is why you want to change this to float before you do computation. So it's nice to be able to check that you rounded correctly, but in general, try to keep this on float. Okay, so now let's second quit out of here. Now let's use that second entry again. Okay, so just copy that previous answer or expression we put in, and now this is to more decimal places. Okay, So you can see this is not equal to exactly 5%. It was rounding this expression. Okay. And to change this to a percent, we need to multiply by 100. Now, we could multiply this by 100, but we need parentheses around this whole thing and then multiply by 100. So it gets really messy. So we usually just find the decimal. Once we find the decimal version, we write that decimal as the percent version. Okay. And now it's 5.1. We'd round the 2 up to a 3 because 6 is 5 or greater. And just since we're learning this, now let's round it to 2 decimal places. Okay. Oops, it multiplied by 100 again. Divide by 100. There we go. So there it is, rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, so again, the moral of the story is you want to round at the very end. Okay, you can use the mode button to get it to round it to 2 decimal places for you, but don't leave it there because it could cause you errors and other problems, and you won't know why. It'll drive you nuts, and then it's just because you didn't reset the mode to float. Okay, let's enter this answer. And our answer as a percent rounded to 2 decimal places is 5.13%.